The restaurant was known for its pride. White tablecloths, polished cutlery, and a reputation built on saying no to the wrong people. In Culiacán, that kind of confidence was rare. Before this story truly begins, let me pause for a moment. We have a dream of reaching 1,000 subscribers by the end of this month. Subscribe, leave your like, and be part of this dream. Because stories like this don't start with gunfire. They start with decisions. Joaquín El Chapo Guzmán entered the restaurant quietly, without an entourage, without ceremony. He wore simple clothes, the kind meant to disappear into crowds. Only those who knew how to look noticed him. A few diners froze mid-bite. Others lowered their eyes. El Chapo chose a table near the window and sat down like any other customer. The owner saw him immediately. A tall man, stiff posture, expensive watch. He had built his business on image. Politicians ate here, businessmen brought clients here, journalists praised the atmosphere. He believed respectability was armor. He walked to the table himself, forced a smile that never reached his eyes, and spoke in a tone carefully designed to sound polite. "We don't serve people like you." The room went silent. El Chapo looked up slowly, studying the man as if memorizing him. No anger, no threat, just attention. He nodded once, stood up, and left without a word. No plates were broken, no voices raised. The door closed behind him, and the restaurant exhaled in relief. The owner felt proud, victorious. He had drawn a line. What he didn't understand was this. In Sinaloa, lines don't protect you. They mark you. At first, nothing happened. That was what confused the owner most. The dinner rush continued. Plates moved from kitchen to table. Glasses clinked. Money changed hands. By closing time, he congratulated himself for standing firm. He told his staff this was how a serious establishment protected its name. Some nodded. Others avoided his eyes. The first sign came the next morning. The fish delivery didn't arrive. The driver answered the phone once, apologized nervously, and hung up before explanations could form. An hour later, the wine distributor sent a message blaming logistics. By noon, the butcher's truck passed the restaurant without slowing. Each excuse sounded reasonable on its own. Together, they felt coordinated. Customers noticed. Men who lunched there every day suddenly chose other places. A reservation book that was usually full by afternoon stayed half empty. A rumor drifted in through the kitchen door. Nothing specific, just a feeling. Something's wrong there. In Culiacán, feelings moved markets faster than facts. The owner called contacts. Friends. A city inspector he had helped once. Calls went unanswered or returned with short, careful conversations. No one mentioned El Chapo. No one needed to. Silence carried the message clearly enough. By evening, the owner's confidence had thinned into irritation. He walked the floor, correcting staff for mistakes that never bothered him before. When the lights dimmed, he stood alone in the dining room and listened to the hum of refrigerators working harder than the room deserved. He replayed the moment again. The calm look, the nod, the way El Chapo had left without protest. That was what unsettled him most. Men who were offended usually reacted. Men who didn't were already done with you. The owner locked up and went home uneasy, telling himself tomorrow would reset everything. He didn't yet understand how fast consequences moved once they were already in motion. By the third day, the restaurant felt hollow. Chairs were still arranged perfectly, menus still printed clean, but the room lacked its usual pulse. Lunchtime passed with only a handful of tables filled, each guest speaking in low voices, glancing toward the door more than the plates. The staff moved carefully, as if the walls themselves were listening. The owner tried to force normalcy. He called new suppliers, offered cash up front, promised loyalty. Most conversations ended politely and quickly. A few ended before they began. One man finally spoke plainly, his voice tight. "It's not personal," he said. "It's geography." Then the line went dead. Health inspectors appeared unannounced that afternoon. Nothing serious. Just questions. Measurements. Notes taken without expression. They left without fines, but the message was unmistakable. The city had noticed him. Attention in Sinaloa was never free. That night, the owner sat at his desk after closing, staring at invoices that no longer balanced. He realized something uncomfortable. No one had threatened him. No one had demanded an apology. No one had mentioned El Chapo by name. The punishment wasn't violence. It was isolation, being slowly removed from the rhythm that kept a business alive. A waiter approached hesitantly. "Sir," he said, "my cousin asked if we're closing." The owner snapped at him, then immediately regretted it. Fear was contagious. Once it reached the staff, the end usually followed. Driving home, the owner passed restaurants that once envied his success. Tonight, they were full. Laughter spilled into the street. Music played louder than usual. The city hadn't turned against him. It had simply moved on. He lay awake replaying the refusal, the calm nod, the exit without drama. For the first time, pride felt less like strength and more like a liability. In Sinaloa, survival didn't come from standing firm. It came from knowing when to bend. The owner made the call just after dawn, before the city fully woke. He chose the number carefully, someone who had once introduced him to a supplier, who had once smiled and said, "If you ever need help, call me." The line rang longer than it should have. Then it stopped. No voicemail. No explanation. He tried another number. Same result. By the third call, he understood the pattern. At the restaurant, the kitchen felt colder. The head chef asked about missing ingredients. The owner lied and said the trucks were delayed. He hated the sound of his own voice when he lied. It lacked conviction. By noon, 2 tables canceled reservations without reason. By mid-afternoon, a newspaper delivery skipped the address entirely. Small things, precise things. The city was editing him out. He finally said the name out loud, alone in his office. El Chapo. It felt dangerous, like touching a wire. He realized then that refusal hadn't been an act of courage. It had been a declaration. And declarations, once made, demanded answers. A message arrived in the early evening. No sender, no greeting. Just a location and a time. He stared at it until the letters blurred. He considered ignoring it. Pride suggested that. Survival argued louder. He closed the restaurant early and told the staff to take the next day off. He didn't explain why. At the location, a quiet cafe far from his neighborhood, he waited, hands folded, eyes down. A man sat across from him without ordering. "You embarrassed yourself," the man said calmly. "And you embarrassed people who don't like embarrassment." The owner swallowed. "I want to fix it," he said. The man nodded once. "Then you'll ask." "Properly." The chair scraped as the man stood. 24 hours, he added. "After that, the city forgets you ever cooked." The owner watched him leave, understanding at last that dignity was negotiable and time was not. The owner didn't sleep. He sat at the kitchen table, counting hours the way prisoners counted footsteps. Pride argued for silence, for endurance, for waiting it out. Reality answered with numbers, rent, payroll, suppliers, licenses, all depending on a city that had already decided to look elsewhere. By morning, pride felt expensive. He arrived early and unlocked the restaurant alone. The room looked smaller now, stripped of confidence. He walked table to table, straightening chairs that didn't need it, rehearsing sentences he hoped he wouldn't have to say. Each version ended the same way, with him asking. Not demanding, asking. By noon, the message spread quietly that the owner was looking for someone. Not by name, never by name, just someone who could pass a message along. The staff sensed the shift. The chef worked without music. The waiters avoided eye contact. Everyone understood that the building itself was holding its breath. Late afternoon, a black SUV idled across the street. It didn't park. It didn't leave. It waited. The owner stepped outside, heart hammering, and stood on the sidewalk like a man deciding whether to jump. A window lowered an inch. A voice spoke without looking at him. "Say it." The owner swallowed. "I made a mistake," he said. The words tasted like metal. "I want to fix it." The window stayed where it was. "How?" the voice asked. The owner looked back at his restaurant, the sign, the door, the tables he loved. "I wanted to come back," he said. "On my terms. On his." The window rose. The SUV rolled away. No promise. No confirmation. Just movement. The owner returned inside and locked the door, hands shaking. He understood now. Begging wasn't humiliation here. It was currency, and he had finally spent it. He waited for the answer. knowing it would come or it wouldn't, and either way, the city would decide his future by morning. The answer didn't come by phone. It came through absence. That night, a single supplier returned his call, the fish vendor who hadn't shown up days earlier. He spoke carefully, as if reading from memory. "Tomorrow morning," he said. "Same price. No apology. No explanation." 10 minutes later, the wine distributor confirmed a delivery window. By dawn, the butcher texted a thumbs up. The city was breathing again, slowly, conditionally. The owner understood the message. He wasn't forgiven. He was being tested. He reopened at noon. The first hour was empty. The second brought a pair of regulars who ate quickly and left without lingering. By late afternoon, a table of 4 arrived, then another. Conversation returned in cautious layers. The owner stayed near the host stand, smiling too much, listening too closely. Power had answered, but it hadn't arrived yet. At dusk, a man entered alone and took the window table, the same one El Chapo had chosen. He ordered water, nothing else. The owner approached, heart pounding, and waited to be acknowledged. The man didn't look up. "He'll come," he said softly. "If you understand, this isn't about food." The owner nodded. "I understand." The man finally met his eyes. "Then prove it." The man left a card on the table. No name, no logo, just a time. The owner picked it up like it might burn him. He knew what was being asked. Not a favor, but a posture. Deference without spectacle. Respect without theater. That night, the owner reset the dining room himself. He chose the best table, replaced the linens, dimmed the lights just enough. He told the staff nothing, only to be ready. In Sinaloa, readiness was the only apology that mattered. When he locked up, he stood alone in the doorway and whispered a promise to the empty room. Tomorrow, he would not refuse. Tomorrow, he would receive. El Chapo arrived without announcement. No convoy, no spectacle, just a single car that stopped, waited, and let him step out like any other customer. The street noticed, then pretended not to. Inside, the staff felt the shift before they saw him. The subtle straightening of backs, the sudden care in movements. The owner stood at the host stand, hands folded, breathing measured, rehearsed humility ready and unnecessary. El Chapo chose the window table again. The same chair, the same angle. He didn't look around. He didn't test the room. He sat, patient, as if the restaurant had always belonged to this moment. The owner approached slowly and stopped at a respectful distance. He didn't speak first. He waited. "You said no," El Chapo said, not accusing, just stating a fact. The owner nodded. "I was wrong." Silence followed. It wasn't uncomfortable. It was instructional. "Why?" El Chapo asked. The owner swallowed. "Because I thought reputation was protection." El Chapo glanced at the window, the street beyond. "Reputation is wind," he said. "Protection is alignment." The owner bowed his head slightly. "I want to align." El Chapo nodded once. "Then serve." No menu was requested. No preferences stated. The kitchen worked with precision, not haste. Dishes arrived perfect, timed, unremarkable in the best way. El Chapo ate quietly, paid in cash, left a tip that wasn't generous or insulting, just correct. As he stood, he paused. "Tomorrow," he said, "you'll be busy." Then he left the same way he came. No applause, no whispers. The door closed, and the room exhaled. The owner remained still for a moment, absorbing the lesson. He hadn't regained control. He had accepted his place within it. Outside, the street resumed its rhythm. Inside, reservations began to fill. The city had noticed the alignment. And in Sinaloa, alignment was everything. By the next afternoon, the restaurant was full in a way it hadn't been in weeks. Reservations stacked back to back, walk-ins waiting without complaint. The owner moved through the room quietly, correcting nothing, observing everything. The city hadn't forgiven him. It had recalibrated. He understood now that survival here wasn't about pride or defiance. It was about reading the room before it read you. Suppliers arrived on time. Inspectors didn't return. Old customers lingered again, laughing a little louder than necessary, relieved to feel included in something stable. New faces appeared too. Men who ordered simply, paid in cash, and left without leaving names behind. The owner noticed how the staff worked differently, more attentive, less anxious. Order had returned, and with it, a fragile peace. Late that evening, the owner stepped outside to lock up and found himself alone on the sidewalk, the sign glowing softly above him. He remembered the moment he had refused service, the confidence, the applause in his own head. He understood the cost now. Saying no hadn't been brave. It had been ignorant. The city didn't reward statements. It rewarded understanding. Inside, the window table sat empty, clean, waiting. The owner didn't see it as a throne anymore. He saw it as a reminder. In Sinaloa, power didn't demand. It allowed. And those who learned that lesson in time were permitted to continue. The story spread the way these stories always did. Short, precise, instructive. A restaurant owner refused El Chapo. 24 hours later, he begged him to come back. No gunshots, no threats, just alignment restored. The city kept the lesson and forgot the man's name. When the lights went out and the door locked, the owner walked home lighter than he had been in weeks. He had lost something, pride perhaps, but gained something far more valuable. He had learned how to stay open,